The Bernie Sanders campaign run has truly left its mark, and now we have lots of new organizations springing up, like, for example, the brand new Congress and the Justice Democrats. And now we have another one that's added to it that in its own right has had some growth right here. So we're talking today about the Draft Bernie campaign, and we're going to talk about how it somewhat differs from the Justice Democrats and other like brand new Congress, which is interesting because it's a question as to whether it's going to cause infighting. Because while they didn't fight like the organizations and they kind of were buddy buddy, the supporters of the two movements have kind of semi duked it out because the Draft Bernie guys are like, Cenk is not really a Bernie supporter because he voted for Hillary in the general, not the primary. But plus, Cenk is not. He's more establishment than they would like. But more importantly, here's the big difference: Justice Democrats want to retake the Democratic Party. The Draft Bernie campaign wants to make a whole new party. So I think that you can have both at the same time and still be definitely allies, because once they get in, they should be allies. However, I think that they should refrain from running candidates against each other. So I think that they shouldn't run candidates against each other, and they should be allies once they get the seats. I would rather have them have one general consensus and a goal, but unfortunately in today's day and age in the politics, it's just impossible. But the big difference is that the Draft Bernie group, the campaign, the organization, they want to start a third party as opposed to, or a separate party, because there are more than two parties, but they want to start a separate whole party instead of trying to take over the Democratic Party. So contributor Nick Brana is actually the founder, and I'm trying to get him on the show for an interview, so make sure you tweet at him saying, hey, go on this show. I'm really hopeful to bring him on here. But here's what it says. It says Sanders campaign staff, delegates, and volunteers launch Draft Bernie for a People's Party. So he says, shortly after the election, I wrote an article saying that far from embracing progressives, the Democratic Party would rebuff them. Far from resisting Trump, the party would facilitate him. The article was the case and blueprint for a new progressive party founded by Bernie Sanders. From that day on, people have approached me without pause, asking how they can make it a reality. A growing number of us watched as the Democrats shut progressives out and collaborated with the Republicans. Activists, academics, artists, delegates, volunteers, and former Sanders staff came together around the idea. We waited for someone to call Sanders to a new movement party, till one day we realized that it was up to us, and Draft Bernie for a People's Party was born. So, let's see. Since the presidential election, there's been a remarkable exodus from the Democratic Party. More than 14 million people have left and become independents. That represents a loss of nearly 20% of the party's following from early November. The number of Democrats has fallen to a historic low, so low that Republicans now outnumber Democrats in a progressive country. That's pretty crazy. Despite Bernie Sanders' monumental endeavor to bring people into the Democratic Party, people are leaving it by the millions. The collective efforts to reform the party cannot stem the tide of the people who are going to be independent, let alone expand the base. So basically what they are doing is starting their movement, and which is a third party. So they have already about 10,000 signatures, as well as $23,000 pledged in donations. So they definitely have a huge movement currently, because there are people hungry for another party, and I'm excited to see what they do. Again, I really hope the founder, Nick Brana, will come on for an interview, so make sure you tweet at him, tell him however you can to say, hey, come on, go on the show, Progressive Voice, for an interview. I'd love to have him on, and I'd like to see what happens, and we'll see what goes on.